If you want to go back in time, you made a mistake on a model or a drawing or a document, some code you wrote. Well, if you use a version control system like Git or GitHub or both, you can go back in time and see what you did before and even go back and have your code start from there. Hey, welcome back to Education with Miyoshi. I'm going to show you a piece of software, a website really, called GitHub. And it's mostly for software developers and those folks doing code, but it can be used for other things as well. If you write files, if you want to save different versions of files, you can use GitHub to your best advantage. And like I said, you can go back in time. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're just going to share that. Okay, so I'm just going to go to GitHub, and I already have an account, but I'm going to show you how to go through and get a GitHub account first. Make sure I believe it's at least 13 to sign up for a GitHub account. And if you're a young person, make sure you talk to your folks before you do that. And just as a reminder, I'll tell you again later, but you should use private repositories or repos. If I say repositories and repos, they are the same thing, but you want to use private repositories when you are developing, especially as a youngster. So I'll sign up for GitHub here, and all you have to do is put in a username, and I'll just put in, and I'll do one, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, still not. Oh, wow. Okay, how about that? And I'm going to just use aaa@bbb.ccc, even though that's not what I'm going to be doing. And I'll just put in some password. And you would set this up properly, of course, and I would probably say not, and then you do your stuff here. Now I'm not going to create the account, so I'm going to actually get rid of that, and I will not create this account. But instead, here is my GitHub account. The nice thing about it is if I go to something like, well, let's move that out of the way and see my own repos. Repos and repositories, remember, are the same. I have a test, I have a bunch of stuff. Here's some stuff from my classes. So anyway, that is GitHub, but actually let's just show you this guy. The nice thing about it is you can have any document, and here's just a C++ document. You can kind of go back in time. I cannot really show you that right this minute because I only have one real commit. Actually, I have a couple different commits, but it's just a couple different files. And you can see here are the different commits. Let's see if we go back in history, and you can see here are the different things that I've got. You can just kind of see all the history. So GitHub, it's a great way to have a history and to have version control of any kind of document you've got, any kind of projects. Mostly it's for coders, but there are a bunch of cool things you can do with GitHub. Here is my repository, of course, github.com, or not my repository, but my GitHub area, if you will. It's just github.miyoshi, or Michael T. Miyoshi, and you can see all my repositories here. And you don't have to have an account on GitHub to do that. You just have to have an account to make your own repositories. And I'm going to make one real quick. So when you make a repository, what you want to do is just click on this plus button, and we're going to make a new repository. And you just have to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this junk because I'm going to get rid of it right away. And you can put a description there, something temporary. And for my students especially, I would suggest you make all your repositories private. That way no one can see them. You just have access to them. You can give access to other people, but you can just make them private. You can add these readmes and choose a license. I would suggest you choose a license at the very least and do an MIT license. That's pretty normal. I'll make a repository, and then you can go from there. If you add a README file, that's a wonderful thing to do. You can add files. If you want to make any kind of new file, you can do that. You can make folders, but when you make a folder, you have to make a file first. And what else can you do that's pretty cool? Well, that's good enough for a beginning. And so we'll just leave it at that. GitHub, it's a really cool tool for you as coders, as file creators of any sort, and those of you especially who want to have kind of a history of what you've done and maybe be able to even go back in time. So use GitHub to your best advantage. And again, you can sign up for free. And oh, that's the other thing. Once you do that, once you make a repository, you can go to its settings, and then you can manage the access, and you can invite people to be collaborators. And then you can say, hey, I want to add whoever you want. Oops, where'd it go? Oh, come on. Nope, there it is. It is right there all along. You can invite that collaborator. All you have to do is click that button. You just have to know who you want to put in there by username, full name, or email, and then just add the collaborator, and that person can then access your repository, give you comments, add to it, change things if you want, and all that good stuff. So GitHub, making a little repository, and even having some access by adding collaborators. So again, use GitHub to your best advantage, and sometimes when you need to, you can go back in time. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time on Education with Miyoshi.